Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, performer, producer, and Emmy Award winner. Each week, I bring on inspiring people and experts in their field to have powerful, motivational, and enlightened conversations about relationships, self-development, and how you can love yourself even more. Follow us for daily updates at Love You Even More podcast and at Jackie Brubaker on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. For more on myself and the podcast, including ways that you can love yourself even more, go to loveyouevenmore.com. Welcome, Elicia Partain, to the Love You Even More podcast. Elicia and I have been friends this year. We have met and become friends, and she is amazing. She is here to talk about the book she is working on about healing from cheating from the cheater's perspective. And it's for men and women. She's a coach. She is working with people to work through what cheating and having affairs is like and how to heal from that. And we're going to talk all about it from the other side, because we hear a lot of affairs and cheating from the perspective of someone who has been cheated on, but we never hear from the person who actually did the cheating and why. So we're going to get into it, but welcome, Elicia.
Thank you so much. That was such a great introduction. And oh my gosh, it's so good to be here with you and like to see your face because I haven't seen you in a while. And I'm excited to, dive into this less talked about, really not talked about actually, like perspective and kind of unpack some, I think misnomers, out there, some mistruths about cheating and about the cheater themselves and also the person who was betrayed. So I'm really excited to dive in.
So you were working on a book about this. How would you like to begin talking about all of this? Do you want to start with the book, or would you like to start with your personal experience?
I think they really go hand in hand, actually. So I'll share a little bit of background on my story, just a little short snippet, and kind of what led to the book in the first place. And so 6 years ago, I was, stay-at-home mom, perfect house, perfect neighborhood, and seemingly perfect marriage, Instagram perfect marriage. And I had 3 little kids, 3 and under, and I chose to have an affair. And I was already very broken walking into that experience, led me to make some really poor choices, obviously. But then that affair itself broke me in ways that I could have never fathomed. And coming out of it, I didn't get found out, as a lot of people, think that the only way people get caught is that they get caught. But I actually came to my ex-husband at the time and was like, I'm leaving you for this other person, and which is insane. And self-denial is crazy anyway. But I didn't end up leaving him. That person I was having an affair with walked away and, started diving into like, how could I have done this? And I think that is the resounding question for people who have cheated, is they like, how did I get to this place? Like, how could I do this to a person that I loved? How could I do this to my family? How could I do this to myself? And so I started diving into like a self-discovery journey, but there was no resources out there for someone who had cheated. That I found lots of resources for people who had been betrayed, and like they need resources too. I'm not dissing that at all, but there was no resources that actually spoke directly to my infidelity and like what could have caused it. And so I don't know, like I scratched the surface on healing, but I really didn't do very much. I was in couples therapy, with my ex-husband, trying to work things out. And then I was in individual therapy, and everything focused on what was missing in the relationship, which I honestly think is like such a damaging concept. I think it's damaging for the person who's been betrayed, and I think it's damaging for the person who cheated, because it gives the person who cheated an excuse for their behavior, like, oh, something lacking in my partner. Yeah. And then it makes the person who was betrayed think that it was their fault, and it wasn't. I think that's a real misconception, is that people who have been betrayed walk away thinking, what was wrong with me
Right.
that someone would treat me this way. And that's not it. Like there's something deeply lacking within that person that made them make that choice. So, but it wasn't until, 3 years later, we had a domestic violence incident where my husband gave me a black eye as an early Christmas present. And it was like I don't know, like one of those moments in your life where every choice you've made, like it's like the world stopped, and like every choice I had made up to that point came like flooding into my brain. And it was like, I knew like I had to make a different choice. I had to figure this out. I had to figure out why I was choosing, partners who were abusive. I had to figure out why I was continuing to allow that. Why would I allow that? And I not only had to make that choice for myself, but also for my sons. And so I really feel like that's when my real path of self-discovery started, where I really started trying to unpack what had led to my infidelity, choosing abusive partners, like all of it. And then that journey itself and all of the, the practices and mantras and meditations and daily journal habits that I developed myself to help heal myself, I ended up writing into a book. So it's, it's my story of unpacking my lack of self-worth that started in early childhood and the shame and how they co-conspire together to keep you making shitty choices, honestly. Right. And to keep you in really unhealthy coping mechanisms and all sorts of things. So anyway, I feel like I'm rambling, but that's what led to writing the book. And they kind of, so my personal story is the book. And, but I feel like there's so many people out there who are hurting and they hate themselves. And that hate doesn't like work the way that we think that it does. We think like, oh, like you should hate yourself because you did something wrong. But what it does is it compels you to keep doing wrong things. Do you know what I mean? And it keeps you stuck in this really dark pattern of really poor decisions and self-fulfilling, self-destructive behavior. So I feel like I just want to help. And if speaking my truth helps, then it had a purpose.
Absolutely. Well, everything you just said was amazing. And I think just that nugget alone was so helpful in understanding kind of the surface of what's really happening here. Let's go into the lack of self-worth and how, because when you were saying that, I was thinking, were you in a place where you're like, well, I'm already so far like at rock bottom, like who gives a shit? I'm just going to keep making poor choices because whatever the excuse, like nothing works out for me or I'm not good enough or what does it matter? Like what was happening when you got to that place? And is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that definitely is true. And I think, I think it's a bunch of things, but I think, in unpacking it, what I realized is like that deep-seated unworthiness that I carried led me to all sorts of coping mechanisms. So, in my early adulthood, it was an eating disorder. So I was using food to try and fill that hole of unworthiness. And then, as I got older, it switched to drinking. And that was a really good tool, like to help me cope with my unworthiness. And I think that, at the point that I was 6 years ago, I was super overwhelmed. I had twins who were under a year old, and I had a 2.5-year-old, and I was at home with them, all by myself every day. And it was just a lot. And that's not an excuse. I'm just saying it was a lot. And then I basically got told by my then husband, and this isn't his fault. Like, it's like my choices are not his fault. I'm not making excuses for my behavior. But what led me to this path was like that he basically told me I had no value. And here I was literally physically, mentally, emotionally, like sacrificing myself on a daily basis. And I was overwhelmed, burnt out, had no self-worth. Like it was plummeting further and further each day. And then I got that validated that I didn't have any value. Right. And then it was just this like, well, if I don't exist, I just need to exist, like is the feeling. And so I just leaned all the way into this guy who had already been flirting with me. and gave me some sort of value, however disgustingly pathetic type value that is. Like, it's not real value.
Mm.
And real value can't be found in somebody else in the first place.
Yeah.
But like, I was so desperate to like just exist, just to be seen, just to be told that I was smart and pretty. Like, I mean, just the most basic yucky things, you know, like that aren't really real, you know what I mean? And so I made a really poor choice. And like, it was so self-destructive. And like and exactly what you were saying, like, you know, once you make one shitty choice. So like, I mean, it didn't start with like, you know, drove to his house and had sex with him. Like, that's, you know, it doesn't start out like that,
guys.
you know?
How did it start?
No, you know, like there's always a lead up. You know, it started with flirting at the gym. And then, you know, he got my phone number under the guise of like wanting to buy skincare from me. I was slanging skincare on the internet at the time with an MLM. And he did. He actually bought some stuff for me, but then he had my phone number. And so then it turned into texting and, you know, flirting that way. And so, but it's like, I could have stopped at any point along the road, you know, but like your unworthiness, when you don't have self-worth and you don't have self-respect, and you make choices from a different place. Do you know what I mean? You make choices where what that person is telling you matters more than having value in and of yourself and having integrity. And so like, I could have stopped at any point, but I don't know. I think shame compels you to keep going. It says like, well, you're already a shitty person because you flirted with him yesterday via text. So I guess today you should up the ante and, you know, why don't you send him a picture like he asked? You know, like, it's like your shame really compels you to just keep making awful, awful, awful choices and thinking you can't stop, like that you have to go down this like really dark path, even though you know the whole time, like, fuck, like I shouldn't be here. Sorry. Can I cuss on this?
You can totally swear.
Sorry. I was like, oh man. Oops.
No, please do.
Okay.
So, okay. How long, actually, I think it's kind of a personal question, but when did you actually make the decision to take it and make it physical? Like, how long had you sort of just been flirting and all the things?
Man, you know, it had been a while. So, you know, like even when I had been pregnant with my twins, so like over a year before that, you know, like,
okay,
he flirted with me throughout my pregnancy, but there was nothing going on from my side. Do you know what I mean? I was allowing that, which I don't advocate. And like, you know, I feel like that's a gray area, if you will, but it was when I started doing it back and that I leaned in and encouraged him to flirt with me more. I think that's when it went from, you know, whatever, some asshole at the gym that's flirting with me to like, oh no, this is like, I'm on the fucking path to cheating. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm on that road. And the decision when I made that choice, like that it was like, oh, and I call it in the book, it's like using drugs. Like, and when I decided that I was finally going to get like a physical, you know, hit, if you will, was after this huge fight that I had with my ex-husband, my husband at the time, where we had just bought a new house. And the story is actually not even in the book, but we had just bought a new house and we were supposed to share an office together. And the moving guys like started like putting my desk in the office or whatever. And he came in and he was like, no, that goes in the basement. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, this was your idea for us to share an office. And he was like, no, he's like, I'm not sharing an office with you. Don't you forget who bought this house. And I was like, oh my God. And like the moving guys are right there. You know what I mean? So it was super uncomfortable, super fucking awkward. And like they leave and then we get in this huge blowout fight where he basically repeatedly tells me like, you have no value. You don't bring in any money. You don't mean anything to me. And don't you fucking forget it. And I felt like after all the things I had been through, like, you know, such a high anxiety pregnancy, like just keeping us all alive, you know, and I had become the stay-at-home mom that he wanted me to be. I didn't want to stay at home. He wanted me to do that. And I had done all these things and I loved them. Don't get me wrong. Like I love being a stay-at-home mom. Like I loved that choice. I'm not taking that back. But it was to be told that then I don't matter because I'm not bringing any money into a bank account, that I just felt completely broken. And it was after that, I don't know, like maybe like a week or two. And I don't know, the guy, he invited me over and I was like, okay, fuck it. Like, and I hate, like, I mean, I hate that decision that I made. I hate it for everybody. I made that decision, not just for me. I made that decision for my ex-husband to inflict a massive amount of pain onto him that he didn't deserve, and to make choices that would forever alter the, lives of my kids. Like I made and just from a place of like complete brokenness, I made that decision to just say, yeah, fuck it. I'll just go do that. Like, like I guess, like I don't matter anyway. Who cares? And like, I don't know, it's just that's not a good way to make decisions. Like,
no, we know it's not, but I understand. I can empathize. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, but when you are that low and that broken, you will make bad decisions because you're desperate. I think what I'm hearing more is you were desperate for any sort of validation and attention and something to even maybe possibly like bring you out of this hole that you're in and give you something fun to look forward to, something that would actually make you happy, because it doesn't sound like you had a whole lot of happiness.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. But I think that this is where the conversation often ends, right? So like often the conversation around cheating ends right here, where it's like, oh, I completely understand the situation you were in and why you felt so low that you just needed just anything to validate you, anything to make you smile, and why you made that choice. And even if it wasn't a good one, I understand where it came from. But I think that the conversation needs to go deeper, because when we leave it right there, all we do is just prolong the amount of time between using again. Do you know what I mean? Because if I stopped right there, then I would think, oh, it was just the relationship that I was in. That's what caused it. So if I just get in a better relationship next time with somebody else, then that won't happen again. Right. But the feelings of unworthiness, they were triggered in that moment, absolutely, by this person who's supposed to love me unconditionally, telling me these really, really mean things, 100%. Trigger AF. But what he was triggering was something that I had been carrying with me since I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
That wasn't his shit. That was my shit. And until we start fixing that deep-seated stuff that's getting triggered in those moments, then the behavior is going to continue, and people will keep cheating on people, and people will keep feeling betrayed, which leads them to not trust others. Like, I mean, it hurts everyone. It hurts absolutely everyone. Yeah. And so the conversation has to go deeper into like, okay, if I had real self-worth, then it wouldn't matter who the fuck was telling me that I had no value. Like, fuck all the way off. I already know I have value. I don't need you to tell me so. You're just being a jerk. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a whole different response than, oh, you're right. I don't.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, really important. So when you're working with someone, what are some of the first steps you take once you figured out where their self-worth, really their lack of it, stems from? What do you start doing to try to help?
Yeah. So it's been so, sorry, I'm gonna like back up a little bit, like on coaching people, but it's been so
Sorry, can you hear my cat?
And also, oh, I can't, but that's funny. I have a new puppy. I don't know if you knew that, but he's right here on the couch. He is so passed out, but I'm like waiting for him to like bark or like jump in my lap or something. So if that happens.
Yeah, no, Blue had a lot of meows, but maybe nobody heard it. So go on. Sorry.
just giving me some hurrahs. Like
that's what he was. He was like, right on, sister.
Right. He's like, preach. So coaching people has been really interesting because, although I feel like this is, something that's very widespread, right? Based on my own experience, it can't really be validated until you have other subjects, if you will, but you have other people who are telling you the same story. And it has been both validating and then also like very motivating that this work is so needed to hear these other people's stories and for me to relate so much to like little tiny details in their childhood that it's like, oh my God, that me too. And here, and then to help them connect the dots of like, see how you got to this spot from there, and then this one, and this one, and this one, and then it led to this. And they're like, whoa, like, because a lot of them have been in therapy. A lot of the, the people that I'm working with, they want help. They want to be different, or else they wouldn't be hiring me to be their coach. But they aren't connecting. They're thinking that it's something that was lacking in the relationship and they need to just have a better relationship. And it's like, they're not going all the way underneath for themselves. So the first step actually in working with people is I like to have them get in touch with who they were before unworthiness or trauma or shame entered their life. So really trying to remember who their true spirit was. Like, who were you? Were you creative? Were you loud? Were you shy? Were you fearless? Were you artistic? Did you love to sing? Did you love, like, whatever it is, but who were you before all of that shit? Like, I like to call that shit the fucking. And so it's like, who were you before the fucking? And then that's what we're trying to get. We're not ever going to get you back to being that person, but we can get you back to living in that spirit as the person you are. And so that's the first step, is really, really identifying it, really exploring, even if it's like them calling up maybe a family member who knew them when they were young and having that family member describe who they are or who they were as a kid. And then really starting to unpack, like, those events that happen in their life. And, and they could be a variety of things, like I have people who, like one of my clients had a mother who literally told him from a very young age, his earliest memories are of her telling him that she didn't love him because he was a boy, because she herself had been abused. And then she put that abuse on him, punished him for it. And so, that's deep-seated unworthiness to not even feel worthy enough of your own mother's love. Do you know what I mean? And another one was only worthy if he was working. So, they had a family business and he was expected to work from a very young age. And if he wasn't working, then he wasn't valuable. So there's that self-worth piece. There was no self-worth to him just as a person. He was only valuable as a worker from a really young age. So I don't think it's not a specific event. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it all is the same theme, and unpacking that is where the healing can start.
Wow. I think this is giving such a good view of the why. And I think that's what people who have been cheated on wonder all the time. And like you illustrated early on, I mean, listen, sometimes in relationships, people are triggering you and they are doing things that are terrible as you actually had yourself. But what is so important and so key is what you're describing with the self-worth and having it go way back to wherever it started lacking, and really going and finding who you used to be and like reacquainting with them. I love that. I think it's so special to, like you mentioned, find out what you like to do. What were you into? What made you really happy? Because that inner child's always with us. And you can still have a relationship together because they're always there. They're always like, hey, 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 hey. And sometimes they run the show.
Hey, play with me.
Please. Or like sometimes they run the show and you're like, no, I got to be the adult here. Like we can't be 7 right now. In good and bad ways. But I think finding out, like going to a more innocent time where you can actually, and in your client's case, like that's just terrible. Oh my God. So that person was quite young, but for other people who may have started losing self-worth at a little bit later, maybe teens or something. It is good to find that maybe, I'm just throwing out stuff. I'm not sure, but I really do love that aspect of it. Is there another thing that is really important in the beginning of healing when you are coming out of an affair yourself?
I think one of the most important things when you're first getting out of it, because like I'm so far removed now that I talk from a very different perspective than I would have, coming right out of it. And I think one of the initial stages that you have, and it's both while you're active in the affair, which I have people also who they're not my clients, but they're in my DMs and we're talking, but they are active in their affair and they know that it's the wrong choice, but their self-denial lies to them. Do you know what I mean? That there's still it's like almost like, I don't want to simplify it this hard, but for the sake of illustrating this point, I'm going to simplify it into, it becomes almost just another coping mechanism. And so, it makes them feel good, fucking plain and simple. It makes them feel good to be seen, to feel understood, to feel wanted, to feel playful, to feel like it's not so serious. So they're in self-denial though. And even coming right out of it, even, once the affair is ended, like for whatever reason, doesn't matter. And even if you're at a place like I was, like, like my affair ended and I was like shoved back into reality. Like it was a jarring ride. But even in that reality, I held on to this self-denial of like, oh, well, it's over right now, but like he'll come back. And he was like fucking abusive. Like like it was this totally abusive relationship and it was awful. And yet here I was still in this self-denial space of like wanting to be saved. And instead of actually having to do the work on myself, like I just wanted to escape. And I wanted someone to come rescue me and save me from all of this unworthiness and unhappiness that I had no idea how to grapple with. So I think that is one of the first stages. So like, is really trying to start understanding what's self-denial and what's real. And so like, one of the first steps, or second step, I guess. So like first step, is like getting in touch with, who you used to be and like really kind of like thinking about that and just kind of ruminating on it. But then I have a lot of like activities in the book and like accessible like tools that you can use on a daily basis that really are about helping you become more present in your life. Because when you live in self-denial, you're not only not present in your life, you're not present even in your own body, you're not present in your own decisions. You're making all of your decisions and you're living your life in a way that is all a lie. And it's to protect you from what's really fucking happening. It's to protect you from shame. It's to protect you from consequences. It's to protect you from guilt. It's to protect you from all these things, but you have to get present. You have to start being present in your life. And so I have some practices in my book and that I use with my clients to help them start really being present in their life and their decisions.
Amazing. What is the most, how do I want to say this? Is there anything else? Because I feel like I don't want to have you like give away everything that you're teaching because it's so great and it's so important. If you are loving this, guys, please go find her. All the show notes. You will find all of her links in the show notes. But is there anything else that you'd like to leave us with that's really important for someone in an affair to understand, but also someone who's not in an affair, who has been cheated on, to understand?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to answer about the person who's been betrayed. I think it's really important for them to understand that it's not their fault. It's not your fault. You didn't make that choice. And there's nothing, like, maybe you are an asshole, I don't know, but like nothing you did made you deserve that. I literally don't care who you are. I don't care if you're like the most cruel, awful person in the entire world. You did not deserve to be betrayed. And I'm sorry that happened to you. And I hope that you can find a way to trust somebody else again. and
Mm-hmm.
know that it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that you did that made somebody make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the person who's in the affair, I think what I would tell them is, man, the only thing that comes to mind, which, it's hard for you to hear whenever you're in self-denial, but maybe somebody out there who's active in their affair could actually hear this. It's not real.
Mm.
It's not real. Your your real life becomes your like fake life. And it's really weird. And your affair life becomes like your real life. It's like they swap places
Wow.
in your mind. But the truth is that affair is not fucking real. It's not real. And whenever it does become real, if it does have the chance to breathe in and of itself, you might be able to get away with it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to come for you. Like the truth is going to come for you, that it's built on lies. Literally, it's built on lies. And so it is not a genuine relationship. And, people might not like to hear that, but maybe it's because it's true.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, how could it be real? And also, I think, it's so rare that you ever hear someone say, we had an affair with each other and then we ended up together for 50 years. Like that doesn't happen ever. So,
Well, and people who do that. So like I did that. So I had an affair in my first marriage. Like I got married when I was 18 years old. I literally got on an airplane and my parents thought I was going to go visit my boyfriend, and I got married the next day and just didn't come home. And found out very quickly that this guy was very emotionally and physically abusive. And I ended up having an affair like 5 years into that marriage with the guy who became my second husband. And
what?
we were together for 14 years, me and my second husband. We were
Oh my
married
God.
for, I don't know, like almost 9, but like we were together for 14 years. And I think, it's important to understand that like whenever, and you know what, maybe this isn't true for every single person, but I strongly believe that when you started your relationship based in an affair and based on lies,
Mm-hmm.
that then you lie to yourself and you tell yourself that, oh, it's okay, it's acceptable because there was a higher purpose. We're soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
We're meant to be together. And then you work your fucking ass off to make sure that that's true.
Wow.
You stay in an unhealthy relationship because it has to be true, or else then you're a piece of shit.
Oh,
And so you work really hard at making this fake relationship really work. Like, 14 years
yeah,
I was
that's
with
huge.
him. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of work. Like that's a lot of work, period. Like no matter, even in a healthy
Sure.
relationship, that's a lot of work. But I needed so desperately to have a bigger meaning behind what I had done because I was so ashamed of my behavior. But that shame came for me, right? That shame
Yeah.
and that unworthiness, they weren't fixed by being in this other relationship. I did it again. And that's really like, it was the doing it again that it was like, oh no, this isn't the relationship. This is a me problem. What is it? Taylor
Wow.
Swift, like, hi,
Oh,
it's me.
I'm the
Right.
problem. It's me. Yeah.
Problem,
Yeah.
it's me. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. What an interesting plot twist. I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's what I would imagine it would feel like is like, oh, they're my soulmate. Like we're meant to be. Like
Right.
this love is so much more important than anything I've ever felt. But it's all a fantasy. And it's all like, I
Yes.
mean, any toxic relationship, you'll feel that. It's like, oh, it's so important. And it's so like heightened and all the feelings and all the chemical reactions. But at the end of the day, it's just toxic. So,
Yeah.
wow, that is really fascinating. I think you just drove your point home even more that it is about you and it's not and you're
Yeah.
right. Like your partners can definitely suck. Your ex didn't sound like a great guy, but again, did not deserve to be cheated on. And
Exactly.
I think some people could argue that. I might argue that, but I do like where you're coming from because you're not trying to place blame. You're just trying to take ownership and responsibility for what you actually chose to do. And at the end of the day, it's just
Yeah.
about the choices.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I can understand how I got there. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I think understanding how you got there you have to dive deeper. And that's what I've really done. And that's but nobody will really talk about it, and like, that's also why I wrote this book and why I offer coaching and why I've started speaking out about it is that, in our society, like, there's no resources because as the cheater, you're not allowed to have your experience, like, fuck you, you cheated.
Yeah.
And I understand that to a certain point, but we're also human beings who clearly need help.
Yeah.
And then, and societally, you're not allowed to heal. So I think that should change.
I agree, man. Tell people how they can find you. You are awesome. This is so exciting and important.
Aww. Thank you so much, Jackie. People can find me on Instagram is really where I hang out the most. I currently am still answering all my DMs myself. So my handle is @sassy_freckles. I've thought about, changing it to something to be Elicia Partain Coaching or something, but I'm sassy and I have freckles and I'm keeping it because it's fun. So you can reach me there. And I think I have a link in my bio where you can also, if you're interested in coaching, you can set up a discovery call with me and we can chat and I can get to know a little bit more about you and if there is something I can do to help. And hopefully book is being pitched as we speak. And so hopefully it will be available at some point for people to read if they don't want to have coaching with me and want to just do it in private.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about coaching and your book and you, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jackie. I really appreciate you. And let's talk again soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember, sharing is caring. Make sure to rate the podcast and leave a review. We really rely on this to help get the podcast out there.